Are you going places or left behind because you don't have a travel companion? Listen to how you can travel more independently. Dr. Travel Best will bring you the best answers, tips, and hear mistakes so you can benefit.
Welcome to Dr. Mary Travel Best's Independent Travel Guide. This is for women who travel, who want to travel, and especially for those who want to travel independently. What's on your bucket list? You can tell me your dreams, your wishes, and your travel fantasies of where you want to travel, and I'll help you get there. I'm going to respond to your travel questions, as well as share my mistakes and missteps in travel, because I've made just about every mistake, so you don't have to. I wrote and published the best-selling and famous book, CD and website, The World's First Guide to Independent Travel. And since 1993, I've been running a marketing business, raising 4 children with my husband, and been a university professor while traveling. My travel experiences are helpful to others like you. So I want to share them so you make your trip the very best, like travel best. In this episode, I'm going to go somewhere in February is the question. What would you suggest? So this came to me from a girlfriend yesterday. She said, I am so excited to travel for my birthday, and it's in February. So that's where I want to go. That's when I want to go. So the destination doesn't really matter, she said. She'd like to go somewhere warm and then have some golf available, but wherever. So I would like to suggest to my friend, Mary Jo, to go to Hawaii. And I would recommend the Big Island of Hawaii. And when I say big, it's because it could take you a day to drive across the island and around. It's not big in terms of what other islands, but it's big for Hawaii. So you can take a direct flight from the coast of California to the town of Kona, and you can find yourself a great place to stay and some great golf. And the climate is very seasonable, just about all year long. When you do get there, if you're looking for some adventure, you might want to drive up to Hilo and explore some of the areas that have been affected by the volcanoes in recent years. So last year, I had a wonderful experience up there. I was guided by some locals, and we walked about 6 hours during the nighttime. We had lights in our hands, and it was safe. And we walked across the fields to where the lava was flowing. Yes, the lava was still flowing, even though it hadn't been seen for a while. Now, since we came back, of course, there's been huge eruptions, and that would be a very fun thing to see. So when I say fun, I also mean adventurous and exciting, but also teach you a lot about the power of nature. So, Mary Jo, if you're looking for somewhere to go in February for your birthday, I would suggest you go to Hawaii and go to the Big Island, where you could relax, where you can chill and do some golfing if you like, as well as see some lava. So I hope that answers your question. So today's independent destination is Australia. Now, Australia is a world away. So my first tip for you is to take at least 2 weeks on your trip. It's a long airline trip. When you are there, visit as much as you can. There's so much to see. For example, you can go to the East Coast and you can visit Sydney. On the West Coast, you've got Perth. And in the middle, you've got towns like Alice Springs, which isn't too far from Ayers Rock. It's about a 6-hour drive. So Alice Springs is a kind of like a Palm Springs area, if you've been there. So you can do some pretty interesting things. And if you're interested in the South, you can go to Melbourne. Now, I spent about a month in Australia. Some of the places that I would like to share, besides the ones I've just spoken about, are Cairns, which is where you can get the Great Barrier Reef, or Canberra, And you can also look at the Gold Coast. And I think the Gold Coast is really a fun place to visit. You've got Surfers Paradise. And then one favorite place is Brisbane. And that, if I was going to Brisbane, I would definitely go to the Lone Pine Sanctuary. Now, picture Australia with as large as the United States, but the numbers of people who live there, it's about a tenth. And most of the population is near the coast. But be sure to travel inland if you can. The outback, as I mentioned, with Alice Springs and Ayers Rock, it's really an outstanding place to visit. But not even that many Australians have been there. So they do speak English, and it's really a very charming country. If you do go to Sydney, you'll find things a lot like England, except for the California-like weather. You'll see King George Street and Queen Lane as if you were in London, England. And I flew Air New Zealand. It was a great airline for me. The choices are limited in Australia for your flights. So getting from one city to another isn't as easy as it is in the States. So one of the things I really liked in Australia was the Chinese food. So you might want to check that out. And also the Sydney Zoo and the Sydney Opera House. They're just outstanding. I saw a rehearsal of the ballet, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, when I was on the tour in the Sydney Opera House. So other things in and around Sydney are the Rocks and Bondi Beach. And you can also find Whale Beach or Avalon and Newport, Palm Beach. And Palm Beach is the best according to the locals. So the thoughts are that Surfers Paradise was one of the very favorite places. To get there from Sydney, I flew to a town called Coolangatta, and then I took a bus to Surfers Paradise. And that reminded me of Atlantic City, like Margate or Wildwood, one of the suburbs outside of Atlantic City, New Jersey. One tip I want to give you about Australia is that the taverns may not be open on Sundays for you. So take a check in to see if they are open. I stopped at something called a Queen's Hotel for a beer, and I found out that we were the only females in a room of about 47 men. So we didn't find that the women went out to the bars so much, but the men were very friendly and lots of good yarns and lots of good advice. So one of the things we learned about Australia was that women were fifth on the list. Their priorities were ranked as sports, drinking, sports, and then women. So that was kind of a fun experience. So that's today's independent destination, Australia. Oh, before I leave, I want to talk about some of the animals. The kangaroos, the wallabies, the dingoes, the galahs, the cockatoos, the platypuses, and the kookaburra. Yes, the kookaburra singing in the old gum trees. Lots of really exciting animals to see in Australia. So I hope you get a chance to go there. So I want to talk about today's mistake. Actually, I have two mistakes today. One was losing my telephone in Mexico. Yes, I had two phones, and one was going to be just to connect home, and one was just to save and not use. Well, I lost the one that was just to use to call home. I was shopping, and I was in a department store, and I have no idea where the phone was left, but I walked around for an hour or two trying to retrace my steps, and I never did find that phone. So what I would like to caution you is if you are carrying one or more phones, be sure that you know where they are and don't do what I do, which was losing one. And I think it's just a matter of being in a foreign country that you're more likely to be a little out of sorts. So try to make a special mental note to have a backup plan if you do lose your single phone, but try not to lose your second phone like I did. The second mistake I made was being stuck on a chairlift in a lightning storm while skiing. So if you've been a skier like I have, sometimes you're skiing when it's snowing out there. And one of the things I shouldn't have done was jump up on a chairlift. The operators of the chairlift should have shut it down, but it's really kind of scary being up there while it's snowing and lightning. So somehow I managed to get down and out and home, But that was definitely a mistake from my point of view. So if you are in a storm, if there is any lightning, you don't want to be going up on a chairlift because, once again, it's cold, but you never really know when you're going to get down. So today's travel advice is going to be about staying healthy. So when you're traveling independently, staying healthy can be one of the most important things that you do. So how do you stay healthy? Well, first of all, you prepare. Okay, you make sure that you've got your health in good condition. And some of the things that you might need to do is get a health professional in the country that you're visiting. Sometimes it's not as easy when you're traveling abroad to find a health professional. So like a doctor or a dentist could be problematic. So you might have to go to the consulate to get help if you're in a non-English speaking country also. So some of the things about travel and being healthy is maybe to look and see what is the State Department's advice. You can contact the U.S. State Department and find out whether or not you should be concerned if there's any warnings from the consulate. And they do have certain warnings out at different times of the year. So some of the basics for healthy travel are be careful with any unwrapped food and don't try a new beverage until you know its ingredients, and don't order your beverage in a glass and don't use ice cubes unless the water is purified. Pay attention to the personal hygiene when you're going to the bathroom, and don't eat from unknown street vendors. Swim only with a nearby lifeguard, and take precautions to avoid jet lag. And if you are on water, you might want to take some seasickness prevention before boarding that boat or ship. It's usually too late after you board that vessel. Even if you're going for a short hike outside, you should have a few things packed in a small plastic bag, like an ace bandage, alcohol wipes, Band-Aids, moleskin, Neosporin, adhesive tape, and some gauze, and maybe some aspirin and sterile pads. That's a basic first aid kit. So you might want to think about checking the expiration dates for Neosporin and aspirin if you're going to be traveling. So staying healthy is really critical, especially when you're independent. So I want to bring meaning to your travel, and I want you to stay healthy when you're going. That's it for today's episode of the world's first guide to independent travel. Thank you for sharing this edition with your girlfriends. And if you want to know more, just search for Dr. Mary Travel Best and you'll find me. I'll be on the web, social media, and in audio formats. Helping women travel best is my goal. So send me your travel questions so I can help you and help others too. I'm looking for you to travel best. So go ahead and tell me what's on your bucket list.
What's on your travel bucket list? Tell the doctor and her team of women who travel the world seeking the very best. Dr. Travel Best, that is.